It was a quiet evening, and I was stringing Christmas lights when my phone lit up with a message I would never forget. I'm Dawn Larson, 34, a single mom who has fought tooth and nail for my daughter. The text was from my mother, cold and sharp. Only good kids get presents at the family Christmas your unwanted child can leave. My 8-year-old daughter curled up beside me, her eyes fixed on the screen. She read it, her small hands trembling, tears silently welling. My heart twisted with rage, but I kept my voice steady. Understood, I typed back, fingers shaking as I hit send. I had spent thousands on gifts for the family, toys for my sister's kids' clothes, for her jewelry, for my parents. Every year I carried the cost of their perfect Christmas, and this was the thanks I got. My daughter shamed and dismissed as if she were nothing. I opened the shopping app, scrolled to the order confirmation and clicked cancel all. A confirmation email arrived instantly. 15 minutes later, my phone rang. It was the delivery driver, voice calm but curious. Can you confirm the cancellation of all today's gift orders for the Coleman family? I paused, glancing at my daughter's tear-streaked face, then said, yes, confirmed. They had no idea what was coming. Their precious Christmas was about to unravel, and I wouldn't lift a finger to stop it. Has your family ever crossed a line that made you snap, drop a comment, share your story, or tell me where you're watching from? Trust me, this is just the beginning. Stick around to see how they paid for it. That text wasn't a shock, not when I thought back to how they had always treated Holly. I sat on the couch, my daughter's tear-streaked face burned into my memory, and the recollections came flooding in. Growing up, my sister and her children were always the golden ones in my parents' eyes. I was the screw-up, the single mom daring to raise a child alone. Holly, my sweet 8-year-old, bore the consequences. It started years ago when Holly was barely walking. My mom would dote on my sister's son, showering him with toys while Holly received hand-me-downs or nothing at all. At family dinners, my dad would lift my sister's daughter onto his shoulders, laughing but barely glance at Holly. She'd tug at his sleeve, offering a shy smile only to be ignored. I'd tell myself it was just their way, that eventually they'd come around. They never did. Last Christmas, Holly spent hours making a card for my parents, gluing glitter and drawing a reindeer. She handed it to my mom, eyes bright with hope. My mom glanced at it, muttered nice, and set it aside to praise my sister's children for their store-bought gifts. Holly didn't cry, but I saw her shoulders slump. Another time she helped my dad string lights on the porch, her small hands fumbling with the cords. He didn't thank her, only barked at her to hurry. My sister, always the center of attention, swooped in with her kids, and suddenly Holly was invisible again. I tried to shield Holly, but it still hurt her. She would ask, "Why don't Grandma and Grandpa like me?" I hugged her tight, saying, "They're just busy." But the lie tasted bitter. I wanted to believe they would see her worth someday. Instead, they doubled down, treating her like an outsider in her own family. The worst part, I had been funding their perfect holidays for years. Every Christmas, I covered the feast: roast, turkey, mashed potatoes, pies, the works. I bought gifts for everyone, action figures for my sister's son, dolls for her daughter, even a gold necklace for my mom one year. I dropped thousands of dollars thinking it might earn Holly a place in their hearts. They took the gifts, ate the food, and still acted as if my daughter didn't exist. I emailed caterers, booked decorators, and ordered presents, all while juggling my freelance graphic design work. Last year alone, I spent $4,000 on their Christmas, down to the twinkling lights on their Tucson ranch house. Sitting there staring at my phone, I opened my email to check the canceled gift order. The confirmation stared back: toys, clothes, a watch for my dad, all gone. I had poured so much into this family, and they had the audacity to call my daughter unwanted. My sister's children got new bikes last Christmas, while Holly received only a pat on the head. My parents posted photos of their grandchildren cropping Holly out or not including her at all. I scrolled through old receipts: $2,000 here, $3,000 there. It hit me hard. I had been funding their rejection of us. Holly came into the room clutching her stuffed bear. "Mom, are we going to Grandma's for Christmas?" Her voice was small, as if she already knew the answer. I pulled her close, her hair soft against my cheek. "No, sweetheart, we're staying home this year." She nodded, but her eyes were distant. I wanted to scream, to call my parents and demand why they treated her this way. Instead, I kissed her forehead, promising myself I would protect her from their cruelty. My sister was no better. She arrived at family events in designer clothes, her kids decked out in matching outfits, while I scraped by just to keep Holly in school supplies. She never stood up for Holly, never told our parents to stop favoring her children. I remembered a barbecue 2 summers ago when Holly offered her a flower she had picked. My sister smiled thinly, said cute, and returned to her phone. Her husband was no different, always nodding along, never questioning how things were handled. I closed my laptop, the canceled order confirmation still open. Holly deserved better than this family. I had spent years trying to buy their love, hoping it would make them see her. But that text, those cold words about my daughter, snapped something in me. They didn't deserve her, and they certainly didn't deserve my money. I wasn't just angry, I was done. Christmas morning was warm and quiet in our little corner of Tucson. Holly and I stayed home, the scent of gingerbread cookies filling the kitchen. My daughter, with flour dusting her cheeks, giggled as she shaped dough into stars. We'd set up a small tree in the living room, its lights twinkling softly. I popped a classic holiday movie into the player and we curled up on the couch, her head resting against my shoulder. It was the kind of peace I had always wanted for her, far from the family's judgment. My phone buzzed, pulling me out of the moment. A notification from my mom popped up, a photo of their Christmas party at the ranch house. The table was laden with food I had paid for in years past: glazed ham, creamy potatoes, pecan pie. The outdoor fireplace glowed, casting shadows on my sister's children as they ran around in new sweaters. The caption read, "Waiting for the magic." I scrolled through more pictures: my dad carving meat, my sister posing with her husband, everyone smiling as if they had no worries. Not a single photo showed a gift under their tree. I smirked, knowing why. Holly glanced at my phone, curiosity in her eyes. "Are they having fun?" she asked softly. I tucked a strand of her hair behind her ear. "They're doing their thing, sweetheart," I said, keeping my tone light. I wasn't about to let their nonsense ruin our day. We returned to the movie, her laughter filling the room as we munched on warm cookies. Another buzz. This time, a text from my sister. "Hey, where are the presents?" "The delivery guy didn't show. Did you mess up the order?" I stared at the message, my pulse quickening. She had no idea I had canceled everything: toys for her kids, a scarf for her, cufflinks for my dad. I had spent weeks choosing those gifts, thinking maybe this year they would include Holly. Instead, they had called her unwanted. I didn't reply, simply setting the phone face down. More notifications arrived. My mom posted another picture, this time of the bare tree, her caption now tinged with panic. "Still waiting on those gifts." My sister sent another text, sharper this time. "Dawn, seriously, what happened?" "The kids are asking." I pictured them at the ranch house, their perfect party unraveling. My sister's son, always spoiled with the latest gadgets, probably whining. Her daughter, used to dolls and dresses, likely pouting. My parents, expecting to bask in their grandkids' joy, now scrambling to explain the empty space under the tree. I leaned back, sipping hot cocoa. Holly was engrossed in the movie, her stuffed bear tucked under her arm. I didn't feel guilty, not one bit. They had taken my money for years, eaten my food, opened my gifts, and still treated my daughter as if she didn't belong. This Christmas, they would get nothing from me. I wasn't chasing their approval anymore. My phone lit up again. Another text from my sister. "This isn't funny. Call me." I ignored it, turning the volume down. Holly looked up, her eyes bright. "Can we make more cookies, Mom?" she asked. I grinned, pulling her into a hug. "Let's make a whole batch. I said, standing. We headed to the kitchen, her small hand in mine, the movie playing softly in the background. I glanced at my phone one last time. A final message from my mom. Dawn, what's going on? Fix this. I didn't respond. Let them stew. Let them wonder why their perfect holiday had fallen apart. Holly and I had our own magic right here, and for the first time in years, I felt free. The calls started coming in just as the Christmas decorations came down. My phone rang and my sister's name flashed on the screen. I hesitated, my thumb hovering over the decline button, but curiosity got the better of me. I answered, keeping my tone even. What's up, Dawn? We're in trouble. Tara said, her voice a blend of panic and entitlement. She launched into a story about her boutique, a little clothing store she'd opened in Tucson 2 years ago. It was supposed to be her big break, but it was bleeding money. She explained that our parents had taken out a loan to keep it afloat using their ranch house as collateral. It's a mess, she admitted. But we need your help to fix it. I frowned, leaning against the kitchen counter. Holly was at school, her backpack still by the door. What kind of loan? I asked. Tara stumbled through her explanation, mentioning a bank overdue payments and how our parents were stressed out. She didn't offer details, just kept saying it was urgent. When I pressed her, she dodged, muttering that I'd understand soon. That afternoon, I checked the mail. Among the usual bills was an envelope from a bank addressed to my parents but sent to my house by mistake. I tore it open, my hands unsteady. Inside were loan documents stamped with red past due notices. My parents had borrowed $50,000 to prop up Tara's failing business, signing their home as collateral. The papers showed 6 months of missed payments and a foreclosure warning dated last week. If they didn't pay soon, the bank would seize the house. I sat at the dining table, the documents spread before me. My parents had never mentioned any of this. They'd let me bankroll their holidays for years, turkey dinners, glowing lights, gifts for Tara's kids, while hiding this financial disaster. I'd spent thousands on their Christmases, thinking it would make them see Holly as family. Instead, they had funneled money into Tara's dream, risking their home without a word to me. My phone buzzed again. A text from my mom, Dawn. We've got a small problem with the house. Can you help out? It's no big deal. No big deal. I stared at the message, my jaw tightening. They'd called my daughter unwanted, ignored her for years, and now they expected me to bail them out. I almost called Tara back to demand answers, but stopped myself. I needed time to think. I remembered the last time I'd helped them 3 years ago when Dad's truck broke down and I paid the repair bill. $2,000 I couldn't really spare. They'd promised to repay me, but I never saw a cent. Tara had asked for a loan once, too, for her store's grand opening. I sent her $1,000, hoping it would help. She never brought it up again, just showed up at the next family gathering with a new handbag. Meanwhile, Holly wore secondhand sneakers because money was tight. I stood up, pacing the kitchen. The loan papers glared at me from the table. I could pay it off. I had savings from my design work enough to cover the overdue amount. But why should I? They'd taken from me for years, eaten my food, opened my gifts, and still treated Holly like an outsider. I pictured her face crumpled after reading that cruel text, the glittery card she'd made tossed aside by my mom. Helping them now would feel like betraying her. Still, a part of me wavered. They were my parents. If their house was sold, where would they go? I pictured them packing boxes, moving in with Tara, who'd probably complain about the burden. I didn't want that guilt on my conscience. I sat back down, staring at the foreclosure notice. The bank's deadline was only weeks away. I could send the money, keep their house safe, and maybe they'd start treating Holly better. Or I could let them face the consequences of their choices. I tucked the papers into a drawer, my stomach churning. I hadn't decided yet, but one thing was certain: they didn't get to treat my daughter like garbage and still expect me to save them. Not this time. I transferred the money to the bank, hoping it might change something. I wired $10,000 from my savings to cover the overdue loan payments, thinking maybe my parents would finally see Holly as their granddaughter. A week later, my mom called, her voice unusually warm. "We're throwing a birthday party for Tara's son at the ranch," she said. "Bring Holly, it'll be fun." I hesitated, my stomach twisting, but Holly's hopeful eyes convinced me. "Okay," I said softly, "we'll come." The day of the party, Holly bounced with excitement, clutching a handmade gift, a painted rock with a smiley face for her cousin. I drove us to my parents' house in Tucson, the familiar ranch-style home standing under the bright desert sun. Balloons swayed in the yard and laughter drifted through the open windows. Inside, the living room buzzed with noise. Tara's son, the birthday boy, ran around in a new soccer jersey, chased by his sister in a glittery dress. My parents greeted us briefly, then turned back to the other children. Holly tugged on my hand, pointing at a table stacked with presents. "Can I give him my gift?" she asked. I smiled and handed her the rock. She walked up to the table, but Tara brushed past, directing her kids to open their gifts first. Holly stood there holding her little rock unnoticed. I watched her shoulders slump, my chest tightening. I wanted to pull her away, but I told myself to give it time. The celebration moved to the backyard, where a bounce house sagged under the weight of screaming kids. My dad grilled burgers, joking with Tara's husband, while my mom fussed over the birthday boy pinning a badge on his shirt. Holly wandered to a corner near the outdoor fireplace, sitting alone on a bench. I started toward her, but Tara's daughter ran up, demanding my mom's attention. Holly was ignored again. I kept watching my daughter, my jaw tight. She tried to join the others, offering to hold the piñata stick, but my sister waved her off. "Let the real grandkids play first," she said with a laugh. My blood boiled. Holly retreated to the bench, still clutching her gift. I was about to step in when I overheard my mom whispering to Tara near the dessert table. "She's not really our grandchild," my mom murmured, glancing at Holly. "Not like your kids." Tara nodded, eyes glued to her phone. My stomach dropped. I had sent $10,000 to save their house, thinking it might earn Holly a place in their hearts. Instead, they were saying this within her hearing. I looked at Holly. Her head bowed, tracing the painted rock with her fingers. She had heard it too. I wanted to scream, to confront them right there, but I swallowed the anger for her sake. I walked over and knelt beside her. "You okay, sweetheart?" I whispered. She nodded, but her eyes shimmered. We left early. In the car, Holly was silent, the rock resting on her lap. Back home, she curled up on the couch, hugging her stuffed bear. "Mom," she whispered, "why don't they want me?" The question hit like a punch. I pulled her close, stroking her hair. "Some people don't see how special you are," I said, my voice breaking. "But I do, and that's enough." She began to cry, soft sobs shaking her small frame. I held her tighter, tears burning my own eyes. That night, I lay awake replaying the day. I saw her shy smile fade as she stood by the gift table, the way my mother's words sliced through the air, "Not really our grandchild." I'd spent years trying to buy their affection, holiday dinners, money for their problems, even saving their home. And for what? To watch them break my daughter's heart again. The anger I'd buried for years hardened into resolve. I had given them one last chance, and they failed. I wouldn't let Holly be hurt anymore. They didn't deserve her or me. I got out of bed, opened my laptop, and checked my bank account. The $10,000 was gone, but nothing had changed. My family was still the same, selfish, cruel, blind to my daughter's worth. I closed the laptop, my hands steady. I was done waiting for them to change. The new year brought another wave of desperate texts from my family. My phone buzzed nonstop, first from my mom, Dawn. "We need to talk. It's urgent." Then from Tara. "The store's in trouble again. Please, we need you." I stared at the screen, my stomach knotting. I'd already sent $10,000 to save their house from foreclosure. Now they wanted more. I didn't reply, letting the messages pile up. A few days later, I met my friend Lori at a cafe in Tucson. She'd been my rock since high school, steady, blunt, and loyal. I told her everything, the cruel text about Holly, the canceled Christmas, the birthday party, where my mom said my daughter wasn't really our grandchild, and the loan I'd paid off. Lori listened, eyes narrowing as she took a slow sip of her latte. "They've been using you for years," she said flatly. "You paid for their holidays, their house, and they still treat Holly like she's nothing. Stop rescuing them. Protect your girl." Her words landed hard. Lori was right. I'd spent so much money, time, and hope trying to make my family love Holly, but they kept taking, giving nothing back except hurt. I remembered my daughter's quiet sobs after that party, her small voice asking why they didn't want her. I couldn't let that happen again. Back home, I checked the mail, half expecting another bank notice. Sure enough, there it was, an envelope addressed to my parents but sent to my house by mistake. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside were loan documents showing a second debt, $75,000, this time taken out 6 months earlier for Tara's boutique. Like before, their ranch house was listed as collateral, but this balance was worse, 8 months delinquent, foreclosure imminent. They hadn't told me a word about it, not even when I'd paid off the first one. I sat at my kitchen table, the papers spread like evidence of betrayal. My parents and Tara had kept this hidden, letting me believe their first loan was their only mistake. I scrolled through their messages again. My mom called it urgent without mentioning the new debt. Tara's plea was vague, dodging the truth. They expected me to save them again, blindly. Lori's warning echoed, "Protect your girl." I thought about every time I'd let them hurt Holly. Christmas, birthdays, whispered insults. I'd bought their dinners, sent their gifts, even saved their home, hoping for change. But this second loan, hidden behind lies, was the last straw. They didn't just want help. They expected it, like I owed them something. I ignored their texts, letting the silence speak for itself. My mom tried again. "Dawn, call me. We're family." Then Tara. "The bank's calling every day. Please." I turned my phone face down, my resolve hardening. I wasn't going to let them guilt me anymore. Holly was my priority, not their chaos. I reread the loan documents, confirming the details. The bank warned foreclosure would begin within a month if the balance wasn't cleared. $75,000, far more than I could cover without draining everything. And even if I could, why should I? They'd lied again, all while treating my daughter like she didn't belong. For a moment, I imagined confronting them, driving to the ranch, laying the papers on the table, asking my mom why she'd said Holly wasn't really her grandchild, asking Tara how she'd let them risk their home for her failing store, and looking my dad in the eye to ask why he never defended us. The thought didn't scare me anymore. It steadied me. That evening, I called Lori again. "I'm done with their games," I told her. "They're begging for help, but they hid this new loan from me." She didn't hesitate. "Good," she said. "You don't owe them anything. Holly needs a mother who puts her first, not a family that bleeds you dry." Her words anchored me. I wasn't just angry anymore. I was ready. I gathered the paperwork, both loans, and placed them in a folder. I checked my bank account. The $10,000 I'd sent was long gone. I looked toward Holly's room where she slept, curled around her stuffed bear. She deserved better than this cycle of lies and guilt. I wasn't going to let my family's greed define her life or mine. I stood my decision solid. I'd face my parents and Tara soon, not to rescue them, but to tell them the truth. I was done. They'd crossed too many lines, and I wasn't going to let Holly pay for their selfishness any longer. They showed up unannounced, standing in my driveway as if nothing had happened. My mom and dad, clutching a folder of papers, knocked on my door. Holly was at school, and I was grateful for that. I didn't want her to witness this. I opened the door, my face hard. "What do you want?" I asked, my tone cold. My mom stepped forward, her eyes pleading. "Dawn, the house is going up for auction next week," she said, holding out the folder. "We need your support to stop it." My dad stood behind her, silent, his hands buried in his pockets. I took the papers, recognizing the bank's logo from the second loan I'd uncovered. The notice confirmed the foreclosure date with $75,000 still unpaid. I let them in not because I wanted to, but because there were things I needed to say. We sat at my kitchen table, the folder between us. "Why should I step in?" I asked evenly. "You've ignored Holly her whole life. You called her unwanted in a text. You said she wasn't really your grandchild at that party. And now you expect me to save your house?" My mom's face crumpled. "We didn't mean it like that," she stammered. "We're family, Dawn. We're desperate." My dad finally spoke, his voice rough. "We've always been there for you." I let out a bitter laugh. "There for me, I paid for your Christmases, birthdays, dinners, your gifts. I wired $10,000 to save your home once already. And you still treat my daughter like she's invisible." I stood pacing the small kitchen. "Holly made you cards, helped with your holiday decorations, and you barely looked at her. You poured money into Tara's boutique, took out loans you couldn't afford, and hid it from me. I'm done being your bank." My mom began to cry, but I didn't soften. I thought of Holly's quiet sobs, her painted rock ignored at the party, her trembling voice asking, "Why don't they want me?" My resolve turned to steel. My dad tried again. "If we lose the house, we'll have nowhere to go," he said. I shook my head. "You should have thought of that before risking it for Tara's store. You chose her over Holly, over me. You're on your own now." I handed back the folder, my hand steady. They froze as I opened the door. "Leave," I said. My mom clutched the papers and walked out beside my dad without another word. That night, I blocked their numbers along with Tara's. I unfollowed them on social media, their perfect family photos vanishing from my feed. It felt like cutting a chain I'd dragged for years. A week later, Lori told me the ranch house had been sold at auction. My parents had moved in with Tara, crammed into her small apartment with her kids and husband. I didn't feel guilty. They'd made their choices, and I'd made mine. Holly and I settled into a new rhythm. One evening, we stood in our kitchen mixing dough for chocolate chip cookies. The Tucson sunset streamed through the window, painting the room in warm orange light. Holly giggled, sneaking a piece of dough, her eyes bright. We set up our little Christmas tree, its lights flickering like stars. As we baked, I watched her, my heart full. She was enough, more than enough. Looking back, I understood something vital. Family isn't about blood or shared holidays. It's about who shows up, who truly sees you, who loves you for who you are. My parents and Tara never did that for Holly. They took my money, my time, my hope, and gave nothing but pain in return. But Holly and I, we were a family, small, imperfect, but real. Lori had been right all along, protect your girl. And I would. Always.